Welcome to the On Deck podcast. We're back with another Best Ball 101 video. MLB season fast approaching here. Alongside Tyler Wiemann, I'm Shannon Sommerville. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about the top 5 most undervalued and underrated team stacks you need to look out for next time in your Underdog Fantasy Best Ball Draft. By the way, if you don't have Underdog Fantasy Best Ball Drafts or you haven't taken part in Best Ball Drafts, go ahead, download the Underdog Fantasy app. Use the promo code LineStar when you do, and you'll get up to $100 of your first deposit match. Best Ball is just an awesome tournament to be a part of, and the winner this season takes home a cool $100K. Nice chunk of change there. Plus, there's going to be cash prizes each round along the way. So it's a really great tournament and a contest that you can enter in on Underdog Fantasy. So we have a video breaking down exactly what it is. If you're unfamiliar, you can watch that. I'll link it below. But in the meantime, we're talking stacking. Tyler, what is stacking and how important is it if you're doing a best ball draft?
It is extremely important, and what it is just getting multiple players from the same team together, and more specifically, hitters. So we will be talking hitters today. We're not talking pitching, and the whole idea around it is if a team is good, there's going to be a group of guys that do much better than what their projection or their ADP is saying. And the better the team, the better the numbers everybody gets. They have more runs, more hits, more home runs, the lot that really is the way to score fantasy points. So stacking is important. You want to get teams that are undervalued and hope they absolutely go nuts.
And as we've seen in past best ball, winners or people that advance usually have several stacks on their team. So crucial factor when you are playing in those best ball drafts. So let's get into our top 5 most undervalued stacks, starting off with the Minnesota Twins. Last year, they were top 10 in runs, home runs, and RBIs. So, hey, I get it. And there are a lot of players available to choose from, including a lot of young guys that are pretty exciting to watch. What do you think about the Minnesota Twins from a best ball perspective?
Yeah, I think the Twins are super interesting. You mentioned last year they were really good, top 10 in runs, home runs, RBIs. They also had the 7th most left on base. So that is going to say they even left more runners and runs out there. And they added, Carlos Santana. They have the younger guys progressing. Byron Buxton is back and going to play the field this year, which he just seemed out of it when he wasn't playing in the field last year. Hopefully he can stay healthy. It's obviously the big question mark there, but they have a bunch of guys that are interesting going way late in the draft, young, promising guys where if they just take another step forward, the team could look really, really interesting.
Yeah, I remember we talked about in our last Best Ball 101 video some underrated players, which if you haven't checked it out, make sure to do so. I'll link it here as well. But Edward Julian was one of those guys that's getting drafted kind of later, but he has so much upside and so much promise. And kind of that's the theme for that team as a whole. So definitely one to keep an eye on as you're going through your Best Ball drafts. Next up, Boston Red Sox. And correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler, but is this the team you have the most of in terms of stacking?
It is. I have a ton of Minnesota also. Boston, I might have even more of. I just think they're all going too late. I mean, even Devers, who is a great player, he's going to start a 3rd round, and he easily could be a top 5 infielder at the end of this season.
And one of the, I think, the components of like what makes a good undervalued stack is just having players available later in the draft that you can snag. So the Red Sox certainly have some options there. Past ADP 150, right? You've got Trevor Story. That's another interesting one, and one we talked about in our undervalued players. And they're playing at Fenway Park, a very hitter-friendly venue, so that always adds value as well. In addition to the Red Sox as a team, I guess it's a little bit, for me, still a little bit murky what that's going to look like, but they're playing at a great stadium, and that's got to help things as well, right?
Yeah, great stadium. Last year, they had the 5th best batting average, 7th best team slugging. They added Tyler O'Neill, who's been, kind of a fantasy darling for years now,
Mm-hmm.
where everybody loves him, but something keeps getting in the way, whether it be the Cardinals, front office or manager, him
Mm-hmm.
getting hurt, whatever it is, something keeps getting in the way. Now he's going to a huge park upgrade and should be playing every day. Then you have Trevor Story,
Mm-hmm.
getting healthy now. He's back. They have all this young talent that has another year to take a step forward. Yoshida last year had to, get used to the major league game. So even though he's not super young, he still had an adjustment. So all of these guys have had another year to adjust to the big league level. And I just think this offense as a whole is going to be exciting. It's one that was exciting last year, really good stadium to hit in. And they're together another year. I think it's an interesting spot where a lot of guys are just going late.
Yeah. And that's the key, right? Is you just need those guys to be available and kind of come
Mhm.
to you in the draft, not be reaching too far, that sort of thing. Like a lot of times, I'm a Yankees homer, so I always am trying to get my Yankees. But a lot of times in drafts, I don't know if it's because they're the Yankees and whatever the factors are there. It's just hard to stack, right? Like I feel like Boston is a team where you can get really good
Yeah.
value anywhere, like a lot of times in the draft, guys are just falling to you, so like that's kind of how you have to play
Yeah.
it.
They are
So
definitely one of the easier teams to stack that has, like a stud player. Devers is a stud player. Some
mhm.
of the other teams that are very good, like the Braves, for instance, like they still probably
Yeah,
are an undervalued stack, but everybody knows they're going to be very,
right,
very good. But it's hard to
exactly.
stack them because they have, four hitters going so early in the draft that, you have to reach for the later on guys for that team. And Boston is one where if you get Devers, it's going to be easy to stack him later. If you miss on him, you still have a bunch of guys that are going to hit early on in the lineup at a good park. And,
Hmm.
if you get good weather in Fenway, the ball's flying.
Absolutely. Well, the next team doesn't have a great ballpark, but we still think they're kind of undervalued in terms of best ball. The San Francisco Giants. Tyler, what do you make of their prospects in best ball?
Well, the Giants last year were a poor offense. They were a bottom
Hmm.
tier offense. But one thing we know with this Giants team and organization is they always bounce back, and they bounce back when you don't even think they're fully bounced back. But they have quietly put together a very good team. They added Jorge Soler, got Jung Hoo Lee from the Korean League, added Matt Chapman. They already had Estrada, had Michael Conforto, but now he's actually, another year removed from his shoulder injury, so he could bounce back. Wilmer Flores, they have big time prospect in Luis Matos. I think they're a very interesting team where all
Hmm.
of these guys outside of Soler, you're getting like round 10 or later.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think they're a team that is very interesting. I do worry a little bit with the Giants and stacking them just because from game in, game out, they really, platoon guys a lot. So
Hmm.
sometimes you may not have your guy play the full week, but he still is going to be playing in the best matchups for him, and he'll likely have some big spike weeks. And that's the one thing that's nice about best ball is we're looking for those spike weeks, and the Giants could definitely do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely right. They definitely had their spike weeks last week. And as you mentioned in best ball, that's the name of the game. Let's head to another stadium that's maybe not as hitters friendly, but this is a squad worth looking at because they can definitely produce in the runs department. Tampa Bay. Now, what do you, Tyler, like about this squad and this particular stack for best ball?
All right. You have an offense last season that was fourth most runs in the major league, sixth
Mm-hmm.
most home runs, fourth most stolen bases. So the three important categories, they're pretty much all top five, top
Yeah.
six with home runs. They were second in OPS plus. They were a very, very good offensive team. Yes, there's no Wander Franco this year, but they have a bunch of young talent that is, has another year to develop. They also have young talent, coming up that could possibly place Franco. He is a great bat, but they have a lot of good bats, and they were still very good at the end of the year. Losing him didn't crush their offense. I think they have a lot of guys that are extremely good value. Yandy Diaz is going 90, and he, is up there with numbers like Goldschmidt and other really elite hitters.
And one thing about the Rays organization as a whole is just like their whole approach to hitting and manufacturing runs. They figure it out. They can get guys on base and get them around. I mean, that's key for them. They just like know how to do it. They crush the analytics. They figure it out, and they find ways to beat teams. As a Yankees fan, I've seen it firsthand where the Yankees are, live and die by the long ball, right? Whereas the Rays really lean into things to just get the run around. And so that's something you can certainly respect for that from a best ball perspective. Those are the categories that it plays right into. So that's really useful there.
It's so interesting that they're so high on home runs and so high on last year's stolen bases. Like teams just usually aren't both at the top for those, and how they play, how they manufacture runs. Exactly what you're saying is the reason. And having those stolen bases just gives you such a higher floor for your team week in and week out.
So watch out for the Rays in your best ball drafts. Last up, we're going to be talking about the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, a lot of these guys are getting kind of undervalued. Tyler, you and I were talking before the show. Paul Goldschmidt going at ADP 53.5. That seems criminally late for a guy who was just 1 year removed from NL MVP.
Yeah, and I still haven't drafted enough of him. At this point of the draft, I'm usually kind of starting to go pitcher, and so I haven't taken enough of him. But if he slides at all, I grab him right away. But yeah, 1 year removed from an MVP. He is an elite hitter and an anchor to this team. And yeah, the team wasn't very good last year, but they had the very most left on base in 2023. Right. Some of that is just bad luck. In 2022, they had top 5 OPS plus. They can and have the ability to be a very, very good offense. They just got to have a little bounce back. And I think the top end guys are probably going a little late than they should be. And they have some nice younger prospects that are taking another step forward later in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, those are guys that we know we can count on for production. So maybe a down year, we don't take that, maybe people are taking that too much into consideration, and that's why they're going so low. But a lot of options there, especially later in the draft, as you mentioned, some of the younger ones too, where you're really just trying to find some value on some young studs that can really produce in a lineup with some nice veterans who can kind of show them the way, right? Like that's always key too. So you've got some nice players to learn from.
I just think the market's kind of overcorrected.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we got some nice stacks there. So if you guys are in best ball drafts, keep an eye out for these teams. They're available late. We've listed the options there for you that are going to come up later in the draft as well. So maybe bookmark this. And also, if you haven't checked out our other best ball tutorials, we go over roster construction. We also go over in a video our players that are undervalued, or later in the draft, you can grab them. So make sure to check out those videos. And do us a huge favor right now, as you're watching right now, give us a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, comment below. Let us know what teams you've been stacking in your best ball drafts or how you've been doing. Also, later this week, we'll be doing a live best ball draft. We've been kind of doing them throughout the month, getting ready for baseball season. So excited. And if you subscribe to LineStar YouTube channel, make sure to check out our daily pick'em show. We are always giving out picks every single day, especially for baseball, which last year, Tyler, our picks crushed it in the pick'em. So make sure to tune into that as well during the season. If you have any questions about best ball in general, drop them in the comments, or if there's any other videos you want to see us break anything down, let us know. We are here to help you. We want to win that $100,000. Hopefully we do so. We'll be drafting live this Thursday again. So come join us. Hop in a best ball draft with us on Underdog Fantasy. And if you don't have Underdog Fantasy yet, check it out. Underdog Fantasy. Use the promo code LineStar for up to $100 of your first deposit match, plus 1 free month of the LineStar app, which is great. It has, if you guys are playing Pick'em, it has a tab just for Underdog Fantasy where you can sort and see what's offered on Underdog Fantasy and how LineStar projects a certain player to do against their projection for that day. So check out linestarapp.com for more on that. For now, hey, if you don't stack, you are whack. That is my motto, Tyler, that I live by. You like that?
Look at you rhyming. Oh,
there
great.
we go. All right. On that note, I think it's about time for us to wrap this up. So good luck in your best ball drafts. We'll see you guys next time.
Have a good one, guys. Good luck.